Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever it is that you are. This is Now Tell Us, and I'm your host, Anthony Morore. Have you eaten? Have you eaten breakfast? Have you eaten lunch? Or have you eaten dinner? Yeah, we are always careful about we consume on a daily basis. Every time that we are in the house, we get what we want. When we are out of the house and in our offices or at school, we choose what to eat. But today we are discussing a different kind of diet, digital diet. Have you heard about this? Now you here eat this day because we have a guest with us who is gonna tell us about how to improve yourself by balancing your digital diet. I'm as eager to hear about this just as you are. So join me as we go and meet our guest today, Alex Fink. Please share this episode with all your friends. If you have questions, send them. If you have comments to make, we appreciate your feedback very much. And without taking one more minute, come join me as we go and meet our guest today, Alex. Here we go. Hello, Alex.
Good morning, Anthony.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm very good. How are you?
I'm good. It's actually evening where I am right now.
I see. It's still morning here in Texas, so
Oh, you are in Texas, the
yes,
place where I long to go.
you should come visit. Now is a good
Yes.
time of year. Summer,
I,
not so good.
I watched so many westerns, and I always desired I'm gonna go there and ride the horses and wear that cape.
Yeah, we're not in this part of Texas where you have westerns and horses. Texas is pretty big and diverse, but
Okay.
you should still come. It's still
Yeah.
highly recommended.
Which part of Texas are you?
Austin, the capital. So
Oh, okay.
not
Yeah.
that many horses around here. If you drive about 11 hours west of here, then
Yeah.
you'll find all the horses and the westerns and basically all the places where the westerns were filmed.
Yeah. But I am sure once I come, you can always take me there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so the westerns we used to watch as we are growing up, and then we used to watch cartoons, and then when we came to realize or to know things much, we started following the news and how the world is going around, how our government is doing. So from the word go, we were glued to what is happening out there, and this continues to be. And then I came across this thing that you're saying that it's a diet that I have been consuming.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, tell us, drive us into your topic today.
Well, so just like you've been consuming food since forever, but at some point you discovered that food has nutrients and you can actually try to plan what you're putting in your mouth, right?
Mhm.
So you can view information the same way. You are
Okay.
consuming information whether you want it or not, but you can try to be more conscious and actually look at what it is that you are consuming and who put it on your plate,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I think most of us are consuming it without really thinking about it because we've never had this discussion. But the result is that what we're putting in our brains is random junk for the most part. And
Mm-hmm.
it's been getting worse and worse, especially over the past 30 years, because information on the internet tends to be monetized using ads, and ads tend to pay per click or per view. There's
Mm-hmm.
no pay per truth or pay per quality, right? It's pay per click or pay per view. And
That's an
so, for the
interesting.
most part, the information that you're consuming, food for the brain that you're consuming, is just a carrier for clicks and views. It's not really there to inform you. It's there to make you click on stuff or view stuff, and if you got nothing out of it, nobody cares, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so what I started trying to tackle about a year and a half ago, and now there's an entire team of people that coalesced around this mission, is how do we actually help people consume higher quality information?
Mm,
Because if people keep consuming junk, then their actions are likely to be junk because they're basing it on bad information.
mm. Paper truth. That's a good one. Paper truth. PPT. I'm gonna write that down, and
Yeah.
I'm going to be seeing or looking for where the truth is, and that's what I'm I'm gonna be
Yeah.
paying for truth. Now, let me ask you a question. What triggered this desire in you, and you going into this direction?
Well, so there's a few things. First of all, I have been an information junkie my entire life. I've been reading a lot of news. I've been listening to everything I could, watching everything I could, and kind of processing all the information. So
Mm-hmm.
I've been seeing this ecosystem deteriorate throughout my lifetime, where the exact same outlets used to be good and now they're not, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not even just looking at the world and saying this outlet is good and this outlet is bad. They're all becoming worse over time,
Mm-hmm.
right? And maybe to at different paces or to different extents, but they're all becoming worse. And
Mm-hmm.
the other thing is, for the past 15 years before that, I was working on perception systems, so building cameras, computer vision systems, that sort of thing. And at some point, it just became obvious to me that the world does not need more cameras. We are already generating a lot of information, but somehow we are all failing to make sense of it. And it
Mm-hmm.
seemed like information quality is the real culprit. And so we need less quantity, more quality.
Mm-hmm. And because I know there are events, maybe it's a collection of events, as you said, whatever it is that is there something in history, or as you are observing how the world is going, is there some specific thing that was so bad that you just say, now this has got to end, I'm gonna be focused on what I do, and I'm gonna take an initiative to let other people know what it is that they are consuming is going to destroy their health, their, yeah, their psychological health, or
Yeah.
many of these things.
So the reality is, it's not like there was one event in history, right? If you look at the history of how we tend to publish and process information, it
Mm-hmm.
has gone through many transformations in the past as well. And
Mm-hmm.
most of them had good long term consequences, but really bad short term consequences. So if you
Mm-hmm.
look at even the invention of the printing press in the 1430s, in the long term, it leads to an enlightenment and to everybody knowing how to read and write, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in the short term, it leads to 52 religious wars throughout Europe, to the Inquisitions and to witch hunts, all because of bad books that were published and people kind of not knowing how to process it, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then you see a similar thing with the invention of the radio. You see a similar thing with the invention of the daily newspaper, which is kind of how clickbait was born, right? Special, special, read all about it. Before that, you didn't have these kind of bad attention grabbing headlines. So that was actually invented in the 1890s, not in the internet era, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we are now just having more of it, right? So you had these bad transitions throughout. And it looks like we are in the middle of a bad transition right now that started around 2002, 2003, basically with the advent of pay per click,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's not just that the ads themselves are bad, which I know they're annoying, right? But to me, the worst effect happens when the people writing the articles are writing something different because there will be ads on it. Like the ads are driving the content that is being created, and that's how we get so much clickbait all around us. I
Mm-hmm.
was reading Google News a few weeks ago, and that's just a news aggregator that shows you all the best outlets, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
come across an article from CNN titled "Stop What You're Doing and Watch This Elephant Play with Bubbles." Right? That's CNN on Google News, two places that I respect, right? They are obviously above average in quality, but they have to publish this sort of thing, right? Forbes now has articles ranking protein powders.
Mm-hmm.
If you search best protein powder on Google, one of the top results is from Forbes.
From
You would
Forbes.
think, okay,
Okay.
Forbes is really good at some things.
Yeah.
Is ranking protein powder as one of them? Probably not. Right? But so this entire ecosystem is just screwed up.
Mm-hmm. Now, what's a healthy diet? We know what a healthy diet is in the kitchen, but now coming to this area, what's a healthy diet?
So I think a healthy diet is basically one in which everything that you consume has some minimal level of quality in it, right? Maybe we can argue, even in when it comes to food, we can argue whether you should eat slightly more meat, slightly less meat. We generally agree that you shouldn't just eat a plate full of sugar, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I would take the same approach first to the information that you consume as well. At
Mm-hmm.
first, just avoid the things that are obvious junk, right? And there's a few heuristics that we can use personally. Like when you look at an article, if the headline doesn't match the body, it's probably junk. If the headline uses really big adjectives or uses verbs like destroyed or annihilated right there in the headline, it's probably junk, right? So you can try to catch these kind of obvious signs. If the article has no references to anything outside itself, right? All the things that it links to are links to the exact same outlet that wrote the article, it's probably junk, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because generally speaking, a serious article would link to somebody else when they make a claim, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's these telltale signs that you can follow yourself, or there are tools that you can use that kind of automate some of this for you. And one of those tools is something that my team created. That's what the Otherweb is, but there are others as well. So I highly recommend you use some tool to do that, to aggregate news from good sources and to give you some level of scoring of what you are consuming on small, well-defined objective criteria, right? I don't just want to tell you this is good, this is bad. I want to tell you this article has 3 external references. It is written in relatively objective language, right? It is not offensive. I want to give you things that you can kind of follow through and check for yourself, not
Mm-hmm.
just say good, bad, because maybe you have your own preferences. Maybe you're willing to read something slightly more opinionated right now.
Mm. One of the issues that I've come across with people who are using these means of gathering information of news and things like that, also entertainment, is that people have been concerned with the amount of time that they are using, and also the children are using on the internet,
Yeah.
on social platforms. How do you tackle this as you also take on, don't consume a lot of sugar, just
Yeah. Well, so in general, it's true that there's been a paradigm in Silicon Valley, especially, of
mm-hmm,
essentially using the tools of addiction or habit forming to our social media and digital products that we use, right?
mm-hmm,
So the same things that happen naturally when people get addicted to something, the same techniques are used by casinos and making you pull the lever more. And now
mm-hmm,
the same techniques are being used by TikTok and Instagram and companies like this in trying to get you to come back and use it more and more and more. Right. So one of the approaches that we took is we're actually actively not trying to maximize your time on site, even though that is a key metric in Silicon Valley, right? But
mm-hmm,
one of the reasons we're not in Silicon Valley is we don't want to be a part of that environment. But we're trying to maximize the number of times you actively search for something, because
mm-hmm,
to us that means you're actually interested, you're getting some value. But in general, as an individual, you need to determine how much time you're willing to spend on this.
mm-hmm,
The best we can do is to try to avoid using tricks to try to addict you to content, right?
mm,
But yeah, you have to be really cognizant of that. Quality is one thing, but the other thing is if you catch yourself clicking on stuff mindlessly for 2 hours, even though you didn't plan to, something is wrong. Even if the content you're consuming is good, it's still bad that you're doing it, right?
mm. and
So
and which are these tricks? Maybe we could be wary of them, and
Uh,
the
so,
tricks that.
so there's a few. There's actually a lab in Stanford that studies this specifically, and a lot of the people that come out of this lab work for the social media companies. But for the
Oh,
most part, if you think about the habit forming mechanism, you
mm-hmm,
typically have a trigger of some sort, then you have an action, and then you have a reward. And the thing that tends to addict you the most is when the reward you get is variable. So it comes with a variable delay, and it's sometimes good, sometimes bad, which
mm-hmm,
creates kind of an anticipation in you that now you'll do the action and you don't know what's going to happen. Maybe it will be awesome, maybe it won't be, right? And
mm-hmm,
so you see this a lot with social media, that they use these variable rewards. Sometimes they even add artificial random delay before you get the answer. Like you do something and sometimes the badge comes and sometimes it doesn't, and it comes after a different amount of time each time. Like when you see that, you know that somebody just read a paper from that lab or from some other psychology research and decided to try it and experiment with it. So
mm,
these are the things that you should look for basically, are you reading this because you want to read this, or are you posting this because you want to post this, or because you're then staring at the screen seeing if somebody will like it or not, right? Right,
Mhm.
that's an addiction mechanism.
Mm. Wow. So thank you for sharing that with us. It's quite interesting to know some of these things, and I believe that the one who's listening out there is getting something so far. And if you're out there, send us a question, send us a comment. We appreciate. And be careful about your digital diet, says Alex Fink. Now, let me ask you, Otherweb, this is your company. Um, you've given us a hint, but maybe we would like to know exactly how it works once I go into Otherweb, or maybe it's an app. Let us know how when I open the app, this is what happens. This is give us a
Yeah.
guideline into it.
Yeah. So actually, right now it's a website and an app and a newsletter, right? So it's all the different ways that I think people consume news typically. But the
Okay.
general idea is we try to aggregate information from all over the web. We remove anything that is obviously junk, and then we try to give the user as much control as possible to customize their feed, right? So if you want to read the news, we have news articles from 160 or so different outlets that typically have higher quality, but even then within those outlets we trim the bad articles out, and we give you a bunch of sliders and controls to set your own thresholds, to modify what you see, what you don't see, to disable certain outlets if you don't like them, etc. um, Another thing that we thought would be really useful is if you're reading the news or you're reading a commentary article and you see a concept you want to dive deeper into, we think that is a very good, healthy way to consume information.
Mm-hmm.
So we implemented a feature where you can just highlight it, click, and search for it anywhere on the web, in research studies, on Wikipedia, etc. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Because the idea is it makes no sense to me that you need to open another window and type something into Google or into the address bar, right? You're right here. We know what article you were reading. We actually know more than just the key phrase. So we can help show you the best search results for this with one click without typing. But the general idea is you're guaranteed you will not encounter anything bad or
Mm-hmm.
obviously junk. And you can dive deeper into interesting topics. There's a few more things that we've implemented that you could say are kind of an experiment. So we currently summarize all the articles on the platform into a few short bullet points because we think a lot of articles are pretty long and you shouldn't have to read 2,000 words just to figure out if you're interested in this or not. We can
Mm-hmm.
give you 3 sentences. If you want to know more, you go to the original, right? We've included a nutrition label with every article that basically gives you the outputs of all our different AI models and what they found out about the article, right?
Mm-hmm.
So whether or not the headline is clickbait, whether or not we recognized any propaganda techniques that were used, whether or not the language is subjective, we kind of list all the outputs of the different models in there. Similar to what you see when a nutrition label on a food packaging tells you 17 grams of protein, 4 grams of trans fat, this kind of thing, right? So and we are rewriting some of the headlines if our models don't like them.
Wow.
And so if the original, because one of the complaints we get a lot from journalists when we talk to them is that the journalist writes an accurate headline and an accurate article, and it's the editor that often rewrites the headline
Mm-hmm.
because the editor is responsible for the bottom line. He or she wants more clicks on the article, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so we have a model to detect those clickbait headlines and rewrite them back
Mm.
to something that is an actual summary of the article and not random clickbait.
Wow, that's cool. Now, somewhere in there, you mentioned something that is the talk of the town every single day these days. You mentioned AI.
Mhm.
Then, in the past 1 month or so, people are talking about this chat thing. And
Yeah.
now, is it helpful to you, or is it a competition to you, or what it is? How do you use it, or how is it good or bad? Let us know.
Yeah. So AI is a pretty big buzzword, and there's a lot of different types of AI as well, right? So
Mm,
ChatGPT is able to do certain things that we do, but we tend to use different methods because honestly, we operate with a different set of resources, right? They have $10 billion that they just got from Microsoft, and before that, they had more than a billion as well. So they're able to train their models on basically the entire web. in kind of an unsupervised way. We take a more cost-conscious approach of using smaller data sets, but training them in a supervised way, which you can think of as when you're trying to teach a child to, I don't know, tell the difference between a dog and a cat. Like
Mm-hmm.
every time you pass an animal, you tell your child, this is a dog, this is a cat, this is a dog, this is a cat. Fast forward a year, the child is able to know the difference themselves, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so you can think of most of our models as trained in this way, where we basically show it 10,000 articles and say, this is clickbait, this is not
Mm-hmm.
clickbait, this is clickbait, this is not clickbait. After 10,000 of these, the model itself can just tell the difference between clickbait and not clickbait, right? And it's 99% as good as a human at doing it.
Okay.
But all of these are different ways to basically train a machine to do something that the human can generally do. Um, so it's not competition in any sense. It's just a similar set of tools.
Okay. That's good to know. And hey, good afternoon, Mishka, and everyone out there. Good morning, good evening, whatever time it is. We thank you for watching, and we thank you for saying hi. Now, you talk about what our concern is that everything out there is. If I'm going to put content out there that is going to bring me the clicks on my
Mhm.
ads, I'm going to put out content there that is going to make me sell more things. Uh, what's at the back of Otherweb? I mean, uh, financing and the profits. Where the
Yeah.
if you can be kind enough to let us know how it
Yeah.
works.
So right now there is actually no monetization in place yet, right?
Mhm.
We are basically, we got money from investors that allow us to develop good stuff,
Okay.
and we're putting good stuff out there and just trying to make our users happy. The plan is once we get a sufficient number of users, we can actually see how they interact with the app, what they use, what they don't use, and then
Mhm.
we can come up with ways to monetize it that do not interfere with their experience, do not hurt the quality of information on the platform, etc. In general, if you're thinking about how content can be monetized, your options are limited to either you put some ads next to it or you charge people to use it, right?
Mhm.
It's there's no third option, unfortunately. But
Mhm.
even with these, you can try to be very selective and careful about how you do it. So, for example, we don't have to put ads on the news feed. We can only put ads on the search results, right?
Mhm.
Why? Because if you got to the search results, you basically told us, I'm looking for something to click on,
Yeah.
right? So at that point, putting an ad there that is also something you can click on seems like it respects your intention a lot more than what most social media does, which is putting ads between the content you wanted to see, right?
Mhm.
So that is a plan that we absolutely want to try with. And we can then also tell people, okay, here's an option. You can pay this much per month and then you never see an ad again, right?
Mhm.
Which is, I think, something good that a lot of companies do. So
Yeah.
that's the primary plan for monetization right now. But really, we just want to make sure that people get enough value first and
Mm.
that we are living up to our mission. And we even registered the company in the US as a public benefit corporation, which basically says we are allowed to put mission above profit making, right?
Okay.
Because generally speaking, a company is bound by law to maximize shareholder value,
Mhm.
right? So they can say our mission is to organize the world's information, let's say, right?
Mhm.
But if they try to pursue that mission at the expense of profits, their shareholders can sue them, right? And so they're kind of bound by that.
Right.
So we registered in a way that actually allows us to pursue the mission, even if that means making slightly less money, but at least we will do something useful and hopefully the company will also have longevity that way.
Good. So when someone comes to Otherweb, in what where should someone get started
Yeah.
from the app or the web,
Sure.
or where should
Yeah,
they
sure.
start?
Okay. So either way works. If you are on the web right now, you have a browser in front of you, you can just type otherweb.com. Like you'll be taken through a really short onboarding flow that asks you a couple of questions like how many articles do you read per day, which of these 8 topics typically interest you, etc. And it will customize an initial feed for you. If you are on a smartphone, whether it's iOS or Android, you can open either Google Play or App Store, respectively, and just search for Otherweb. Right? It's an app, and again, Once you download it, install it, same onboarding flow, asks you a couple of simple questions, and then it remembers your preferences and it keeps customizing it over time. So every time you open an article, you close it, or you tell us, I like this one, I don't like this one, then we learn which topics interest you. Again, we are trying to be much more careful than the TikToks of the world, in that if you click on something, it doesn't mean you like it, right? It
Mm-hmm.
could be that this thing just tricked you into clicking it.
Mm-hmm.
So we're trying to use more careful signs for whether or not you like something, and we're trying to also separate the idea of liking or interacting with something from the idea of being interested in the topic. What we really are trying to do is give you articles on topics that you like, instead of just giving you articles you click on a lot on, because people click a lot on elephants blowing bubbles. Very
Mm-hmm.
few people will tell you, I want more articles on elephants blowing bubbles, right? So we're trying to cater to the real interest of the user, as opposed to what they happen to react to in the moment.
Wow. So in the other web, we don't have the like, comment, share this. Do we have
Uh,
such
y-
features?
you so the likes, we don't really have regular like thumbs up, right?
Mm.
But there are comments, and there is a way to share things to other social media for now. There is no way to share within the other web itself, but you can share to Twitter, you can share to Reddit, you can share via email, or just get the link to the article. I think we just added share to Mastodon, which I know it's not that popular yet, but it has something like 4 million users, and we wanted them to have the option to share it as well.
Okay, that's good. So, for those who are joining us now, we are with Alex Fink, and we are talking about improving yourself by balancing your digital diet. It's important that you balance your diet, just as you balance what it is that you eat from the kitchen. It's also good to balance what it is that you consume from the web. And Otherweb is a good thing to go and check out. So, once again, go to www.otherweb.com and go and find out more. Come and tell us. Come and tell us. Yeah, we could invite you as a user of Otherweb the next time to come to Now Tell Us and tell us a lot. So we thank you very much, Alex, for coming to the show. It's been such an honor to have you here.
Thank you so much, Anthony. It's great to be here.
Yes. So it's time to go. But before we go, we will ask you to leave us with a few words that we should always remember, whatever it is that you are passionate about. A few
Uh,
words to always remember. What? What are they?
are you asking me? I'm sorry, I
Yes,
kind of
I'm
missed it.
asking you. I'm asking Alex. Just a
Yeah,
few words, summarize anything. Maybe a
no,
motto,
yeah. No,
something that.
I think we already covered most of the things that I'm really passionate about right now. In general, I think that we really need people to start paying attention to this. We
Mhm,
really need people to start caring about what they put in their brain. Unlike food, this is free for the most part, right? With food, you have to pay a lot of money to get high quality food these days. With
mhm,
information, all you have to do is pay attention, right? And maybe download tools that are slightly better, as opposed to tools that, as you mentioned before, just get you hooked on things and get you clicking on stuff for 2 hours without knowing why, right? So just try to be conscious about it, and try to also understand that a lot of the stuff you've read in the past few years has probably been false. And this is a real problem that I see all around us. People have the illusion of knowledge, but their head is kind of clogged with some clickbait they read yesterday, right? And they argue really passionately for something that honestly I don't think they even believe. They just randomly read it, right? And
mhm.
so we have to understand we've been bombarded with this junk for a very long time, and take ourselves a little bit less seriously, at least until we improve the things that we are consuming.
Hmm. Yeah, thank you very much for that. We pay attention to our diet, our digital diet. This has been Now Tell Us, and I have been your host, Anthony Morore. And together we had guest Alex Fink. And we are saying bye for now.
Bye bye.
Bye.